Welcome back, or welcome to What the Film. I'm your host, Logan Thompson, joined, as always, by...
Ethan Kaufman. Hey, hi, hello, everybody.
So today, we got a fun episode in store. We're going to talk about the, plenty of new movies that have come out this past weekend. Terrifier 3, Piece by Piece, Saturday Night, and The Apprentice. And then we are going to dive into our top 10, each of our top 10 horror performances of all time.
Yes.
It's going to be a fun time. Anyways, Before we get into all of that, Ethan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Would I like to introduce myself?
Yes.
How so?
You know how so.
I don't know how so.
You do know how so.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It starts with a hey.
I already did that.
You did?
Yes.
Wait, what?
What? Gang, what?
Am I this just out of it right now?
I guess.
I guess.
I don't know.
You did do the hey, hi, hello, everybody?
Hey, hi,
Are we
hello.
sure?
Yes.
Okay. I swear to God, I thought you didn't.
I think you're on drugs right now.
Maybe I am.
All right.
I'm not.
All right.
All right, let's talk about the news. Wild Robot already has a sequel.
Does it?
We're sequel in the works.
I didn't know that. This is news to me.
Yeah, this is news.
Welcome to the news segment, everybody.
Yeah, I know, right? And I like the Wild Robot. It kind of left an opening for a sequel. I can see it.
I'm sure I'd like it if I watched it.
Yeah, you should watch
I
the Wild
probably
Robot.
really love it. Yeah.
You really might.
I'll watch it at some point.
Aside from the random montage with a pop song in the middle of it.
Seems unnecessary.
I didn't really like that,
Yeah.
but especially when the score was so good.
Yeah.
They could have used the score.
Hypity-dipity.
Hypity-dipity.
Yeah.
In other news, actually, back to the Wild Robot for a second,
Yeah.
because it's also coming out on digital.
Is it?
On the 15th. So tomorrow,
Why?
from
No.
recording this 3 days ago from the release of this episode.
That's too soon.
It is too soon.
It just came out.
Exactly.
What?
But honestly, there hasn't been that drastic of a drop in theatrical ticket revenue when films do go out on digital. So maybe it won't make that much of a difference.
Okay.
Maybe.
Sure.
That's my optimism.
Mm-hmm.
And now, just also, Joker Folie à Deux had a 81% drop at the box office. Made, $7 million?
$7 million.
$7 million. It is on track to be it had the worst drop of any superhero movie of all time. One of the worst box office drops of a big budget movie of all time, just period.
I can't remember the last time this has happened.
I can't either. I mean, it's just it's horrible. I mean, it's worse than the Marvels.
Yeah.
And that's saying something, because that's the Marvels.
Yeah.
It's also worse than Morbius.
Yeah.
It's Morbin time.
No, it's not.
No, it's Joker time.
Yeah, Megalopolis dropped 73% last weekend, but that's Megalopolis.
And it also just wasn't doing it's not like it was the sequel to a $1 billion movie. You know.
That's fun.
Yeah, this is sad.
Hey, it gets what it effing deserves, you know?
Yeah, maybe if they included Gundam Style in their set list.
Joker style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad Joker doing the Gundam Style dances. I would have paid to see
on
that.
The stairs.
Oh yeah. Oh, that would actually hit so hard.
Yes.
At the end when him and Lady Gaga are talking on the stairs, you know, I'm lightly spoiling the movie because I don't think a lot of people care to see this movie given this box office drop. You know, instead of going their separate ways, they reconvene and they do Gundam Style on the stairs to show their love and friendship for one another. And then that's the end of the movie.
The end.
That would have been perfect 10 out of 10 movie.
Absolutely.
The whole movie could have happened before that, and then if they ended it like that, 10 out of 10. Best movie of the year.
Yes.
All right, let's jump over to the auction updates. You take it away.
So, this was a really fun weekend for our October movie auction because a lot of movies came out, and they were, other than Saturday Night, all movies that were on my slate and not on yours. And so we still have a lot of movies coming out, like Smile 2, Venom 3, Conclave's a thing. And so it's tough to kind of judge where we're headed now because we know exactly how I did. We don't really have any idea how you did. But just in terms of the box office, Terrifier 3 outperformed the average projections that we had by about $2 million. The Apprentice made 1.6 against 2.4 average, so that did not help me. And then Piece by Piece also didn't do fantastic, so I am now down negative 10.5 to negative 10.4 against you in the box office round.
Yep.
But just given how this tends to play out, I think I'm okay. I don't think Smile 2 or Venom 3 are going to completely supersede projections. We'll see.
If it happens, I think it would be from Smile 2.
Probably.
I don't think it's happening from Venom 3.
Yeah. Although I did watch that new Venom 3 trailer for the first time yesterday. That's a trailer.
It is a trailer.
That's a trailer right there.
I feel like it could be good. That's the thing.
I don't think so.
I feel like there's potential.
There's always potential.
It has just like look at the cast.
Look at the cast?
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought Joker 2 was going to be semi-decent before reviews actually came out.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That is very fair. You know,
Yes.
these studios, these darn studios, they've gotten so good at making bad movies look good in their trailers.
Yes. And I'm also in the Letterboxd and IMDb round, beating you by, I think, enough that I will win that round too. However, if Smile 2 and Venom 3 end up actually being both good, maybe even just decent, it's possible. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
I think
tuned.
it's really all about how decent those films can be. Also for you, if We Live in Time gets like some projections, that could be a thing.
Yeah.
But it depends, because sometimes when movies start limited, they don't bother. But then they did give projections for Saturday night, so we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, but Saturday night hurt me a lot.
Yeah, it did.
Because those projections were like 8 million
Yeah.
or so.
Box Office
and
Pro went up to 10 million, and then it only ended up making about 3.5.
yeah, so that really hurt me. I'm kind of hoping that like those are low estimates, and
Yeah.
then like when the final numbers do come out in a couple days, they'll be a little better.
Yeah.
That's my hope.
All right. Moving on.
Moving on. All right. Let's talk about the movies that actually came out. Terrifier 3.
Terrifier 3.
Ethan, you saw this last night?
I saw this last night.
Tell me about it.
I loved it, dude. It was so fun.
I'm glad.
I loved it. And I still haven't seen the original Terrifier. I should
Me
go
neither.
back and do that for the lore. Terrifier 2 is a movie that I have a complicated relationship with, where on one hand, I love it because it is this slasher of epic proportions. The scene in the bedroom about an hour in is
Insane.
like one of the most effective horror scenes I think I have ever had the pleasure of watching.
Yeah.
And Art the Clown as a villain is just so great. But it's long, and it doesn't need to be that long. Every scene goes on longer than it needs to.
Yeah.
The acting, not good.
No.
The story, very bare bones and kind of cookie cutter, and just kind of trying to get you from one set piece to another. And I really liked it when I saw it, but I think it's a movie that has a lot of flaws that are tough to ignore. I also, when I saw it in theaters, I was recovering from surgery, so it was a fascinating theater experience where I was in pain the whole time, watching people experience way more pain than me.
Yeah.
But then Terrifier 3, on the other hand, I think irons out a lot of those issues where it's 20 minutes shorter, and I think the pacing is much better. I think overall the acting is still nothing incredible.
Well, I think the acting was better though.
But I do think it's better.
I think what Terrifier 3 improves on is that really the only the genuinely not great acting that I saw in Terrifier 3 that felt not good and not just campy not good were from characters who were from Terrifier 3, Terrifier 2, so it's not like you could recast these people. You already had those people cast when you had a smaller... Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. When you had a smaller budget, so there's not much you can do. But, the new characters who they brought in, a lot of those performances were either campy bad and, funny, or they were, decent. I found the aunt character to be a way better actor than the mom was.
Yes, totally.
And I'm glad that they kind of ironed that out with having better actors playing the more substantial supporting roles.
Yeah. And you can tell because the Terrifier 2's budget was I think $250,000. This was $2 million.
Yeah.
And you can feel it just
you
in
definitely
the look,
feel it.
the sound, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the balance it strikes of being campy, because it's a Christmas movie for some reason.
It's awesome though. I love that it's a Christmas
really fun.
movie.
Yeah, and I love just Art the Clown walking around in his old little Santa getup, killing children. Love to see it.
Yeah.
It really doesn't hold back at all, which is great. The second one didn't either, but I think this one, right from the opening scene, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, gotcha.
Well, okay, it did hold back a little bit.
But I think that made it really effective.
Me too. I think it holds back when it like needs to, and I'm glad it does that.
Yeah.
Like some people do, like it's insinuated that people die or they die off screen, but I think it's smart with how it goes about that.
Yeah, and I think there's a point where it just becomes overkill, and because sometimes it just shows like the aftermath or you just hear it in the sound design, I think you're always kind of a little hungry for more, but not so much so that like, I don't know, it feels more like an actual movie with scenes and story and characters. There's a scene in a shower. That's fun. That one's fun.
I had to close my eyes during some of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good.
No, I have a distinct fear of some of what happened in that movie. So, in that scene. So I was like, oh, it went there.
It did go there.
Slid out like a sausage being unpeeled from like the, plastic thing that's around it. Not directly trying to spoil what happens, but, if you've seen it, you get it.
There's one kill in the third act with rats, and that one's also
really
fun.
Oh, my God. That was crazy. That was crazy.
Yeah.
I think I'm a little in denial at how much I actually like this.
Really? You don't want to like it?
Part of me doesn't, because it just feels like gore for gore's sake.
It is.
To the point where it's, like, disturbingly gross, but it's just so entertaining. And there's just such a level of camp to it, and it sets up people who you just really don't like, and then when they die, it's awesome.
Yeah.
But then in other cases, like, I don't know, it feels
mean-spirited?
Yeah, I think that's a good word. It feels just almost overkill.
Okay.
A little bit. So like I had a lot of fun with this, but I did end up giving it a 3-star rating, and I kind of was like, this is probably the highest I'd ever go with a Terrifier movie, just because like maybe I'd consider changing that rating to a 3.5, but I don't think so.
Do it.
Just because like the idea and like concept behind the gore in this just feels just like too much for me personally.
I get that, and I think the point on that I would argue with is that there are a lot of horror movies that do just have gore for gore's sake, but a lot of those movies don't employ practical effects the way that this does, to where I'm more okay with it because you can just clearly see how much passion there is for this very specific aspect of the filmmaking craft. And it's just always been really impressive to me. Just what they think to do and then how they actually do it and have it look good. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's fair. And it's something that I've been thinking about since seeing it, on kind of figuring out my feelings towards it, because it's just something that's a little hard for me, because this franchise goes so above and beyond with it. More than I've ever seen before, and more than, like, this is definitely the highest grossing gore for gore's sake movie probably ever.
Definitely in a while. Yeah.
So I'm figuring out how I feel.
Okay.
That's the best way to put it.
Where do you stand on the lore?
I think the lore's cool.
Yeah.
I think it's fun. It's not like amazing, but I'm kind of excited to see what they do with it, and I trust Leone to to create a good conclusion for it in Terrifier 4.
Yeah, if that's the last one.
I think he's saying it's the last one.
He hasn't said it's the last one, just that it's happening.
Well, he has said that it's like a conclusion to Art's and like Art's story and what's her name's story? Sienna Shaw's story.
Okay.
So maybe it's not the last Terrifier, but like when the writer-director is saying conclusion to their story,
valid.
It sounds like it. And also, This franchise has probably been such a springboard for all of their careers. David Howard Thornton, Laura Lavera, and Damien Leone, where it's like, yeah, it's great to make another one.
Kind of want to move on to other things.
Exactly, because at this point, like, they have broken into like real Hollywood and can probably get jobs within like real Hollywood as like leads or co-leads or something. I mean, David Howard Thornton is campaigning to be James Gunn's Joker.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, I think it's awesome too.
That's fantastic.
Because I feel like there's enough that's happened where he can at least get an audition.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely.
So I guess we'll see.
We'll see. All right. Talk about Piece by Piece for a minute.
Yeah, Piece by Piece let me down quite a bit. It has a really high rating on Letterboxd right now. I think it has like a
3.7.
Yeah, which is absurd to me as somebody that has seen Piece by Piece. I get it that it's inspiring, like I quote unquote, just because I know that it's an inspiring story and it's really neat to see like how far Pharrell has gone. But the issue is that in this film, it explains it by saying that Pharrell is special. There's about 20 different characters all over this film that at one point or another are just like, he's just so special. He's special.
I guess
like,
he's
you know,
special
he's just
then.
so talented.
Yeah, I guess.
So it's like, yeah, like you see him rise and you see him succeed, but it's not like this movie does anything to help inspire others to succeed like Pharrell, because it explains his successes away by him just being special.
Okay.
It doesn't like give a sort of tip for any like kid who's watching this movie to then go out into the world and try to succeed like Pharrell did.
And be special.
Yeah. You know, like all you have to do is like just be special. So like I guess if anybody calls you special, take it as a compliment now. That's kind of what this movie is telling you to do.
Sure.
And as like a Pharrell Williams like documentary biopic, one, it's a lot more of a documentary than I expected it to be. I thought it would be a bit more of a biopic, but it has biopic elements, it has musical elements, but at the end of the day, there are like 30 minutes worth of just talking head shots in this film.
Really?
Like there's a lot of talking heads. It's very much a documentary.
Okay.
And that did upset me quite a bit because you have this medium of Lego animation that is so creative. And I think they did a really good job pushing the boundaries of Lego animation, doing some really interesting bits of cinematography, like handheld cinematography in the Lego animation mold. I thought that was really cool. And the lighting here I just found to be very interesting. Like it was just distinct, like very bright lights kind of flashing like onto characters, like car lights and whatnot that feel like real car lights flashing onto people.
Okay.
It's little details, but it enhances the world and like just style of this film. But that's all set back by how many talking heads are just in this movie. And I think it kind of relies on this novelty of having these big name celebrities and superstars appearing as minifigures, but I think that novelty wore off pretty quickly, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
It was just like, oh, there's Snoop Dogg. Cool, there's Jay-Z. There's Kendrick Lamar. There's Gwen Stefani. Oh my God, is that Justin Timberlake? I think that's Justin Timberlake. It kind of looks like Justin Timberlake. Okay, yeah, that is Justin Timberlake. That's kind of all it was.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's like a fun time. Like it has some like enough flashiness and enough like musical sequences where, and it's also only 90 minutes, so you're never gonna like be in the middle of watching this movie and kind of thinking about its lack of actual detail. But then after the movie, it's just like, I could have learned all of this stuff about Pharrell Williams by reading his Wikipedia page.
Gotcha.
Like you don't learn anything from this movie that just feels like a deep insight on his life. It all feels very surface level.
Okay.
And his problems as a person in this film are problems of like being too much of a good thing. Like he's too trustful, or he's too nice, or he's too social. Not like genuine problems.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it very hard to relate to him. And there's also just one moment that I keep thinking about in terms of this movie where it's a low point around like the second or third act. He's struggling to come up with his next hit song after, you know, having a really big song. I can't remember what it was called off the top of my head, but it was a really big song. He's like, oh yeah, I couldn't come up with another big song for another 2 to 3 years. And you see him like sad on the beach in the moonlight behind his mansion. And it's just like, how can I feel bad for you? I'm sorry, but you were on a private beach behind your mansion.
Yeah. And
you're just like, you're sad. Like, I'm sorry, but I can't sympathize with that.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about this movie. I think it has its fun moments. The animation is really good, but it's restricted by the documentary genre in Lego form. And because Pharrell Williams was a producer on this movie, he had a lot of authorship on it, and was able to really like make it very sanitized. It's not a deep cut type of biopic or documentary about Pharrell.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Okay.
All right, let's jump to Saturday night.
Saturday night.
All right, talk to me about your thoughts.
We saw this on Friday night.
We did see this on Friday night, not Saturday night.
Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah, Saturday night is epic and fun and awesome, and I liked it a lot, and it's not great. I think, overall, just because you have so much going on, so many characters, it's deliberately very fast-paced, it can become messy at times, and you just kind of get overwhelmed by the sheer excess of all of the moving parts, and, like, as someone who has worked on film sets, obviously not on this scale, but, like, it does a very good job of capturing just what that environment can be like.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it maybe does too good a job sometimes.
Yeah,
but
a little bit.
I think other than it just being a lot and there being a lot to keep track of, and as someone who like I'm familiar with a lot of these people and know who they are, but I'm not so into the history, and like I obviously didn't watch Saturday Night Live growing up. I have less attachment to it than I think a lot of other people. So for me, it was less of a, oh, there's that person. Oh, there's that person. Oh, my gosh. And more just being interested in the history of it and watching all of these pieces come together. But the ensemble cast is amazing. I will say that.
It is. It's an amazing ensemble.
Gabrielle Labelle out in front who, like, Can he be on the level of, like, some of these other new Hollywood actors that we've had the last, like, 5 years? Because he's great.
In talent, he is.
He's great in everything. I say everything. It's this and The Fabelmans.
Well, Snack Shack, too, but I need to see Snack Shack.
Okay, yeah. But, like, between him, Cooper Hoffman is really good.
Yeah.
He's, and there's so many funny bits here. There's a lot of fun running jokes, which I feel like a movie like this would have, but they're just executed really well. Rachel Sennett's fantastic. Dylan O'Brien as Dan Aykroyd is really, really good.
Yeah.
Corey Michael Smith as Chevy Chase was like one of my favorites. There's just so much charisma dripping from this ensemble. And then you throw in like Willem Dafoe and J.K. Simmons as kind of these older, kind of like antagonistic presences. Mm-hmm. They're both really fun here. Nicholas Braun as Jim Henson.
Man, Nicholas Braun. Nicholas Podany as Billy Crystal.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan of Billy Crystal. I literally thought that was a de-aged Billy Crystal.
Really?
Like, it was so accurate to me. And he was so, like, on the nose with just Billy Crystal's mannerisms.
Matt Woods, John Belushi's really, really good. Finn Wolfhard's here for some reason.
Yeah, Finn Wolfhard.
Yeah, Andrew Barth Feldman is here, sure.
Yep.
Just literally everybody. And it was really fun. It was, because we saw this at Cinemapolis with a lot of other, like, college students on a Friday night, and it was a great time at the movies.
It was. And I remember everybody on the bus that we were on was going to see Saturday Night. Yeah. It was a really cool thing.
It was really cool. And yeah, I don't have much else to say about it. I think it was really fun. It has some issues, but I think those are more issues that come about after the fact when you think back on it, because for me, I was just kind of in the whole time. There's so much going on that I couldn't even really pay attention to the flaws. I was just kind of in. Yeah, it's a fun time at the movies. Go watch it. Go.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, I was really happy because I'm a big Rachel Sennott fan, and she was in this a lot more than I expected her to be because she wasn't really in the trailers. So I was like, oh, it's like Rachel Sennett's here and she's not really in the movie, but then she was. So I'm really glad about that because I think that she's awesome.
Yeah.
But anyways, I appreciated its moments of levity that it did have. I was worried that this movie would really feel like a complete straight shot without slowing down at all. And sometimes it feels like that, but then it does slow down. There's a good 10-minute bit just in an office where people are just having more in-depth conversations and sitting around for a little, rather than being super, super stressed out. And then at some point it steps out of SNL for a little bit and it kind of takes a breather, gets some fresh air, and then it goes right back into the environment. And I really appreciated those two moments because it just gave a really good time for the audience to take a breath. Because I think without those moments, I don't think I would have really liked this movie, just because if it was a full straight shot without any breathing room, it just would have felt like just kind of a daze almost, and just not great. So thank God for those. My personal feelings are that it's just a really fun time, very funny, a lot of great bits. Everybody gives a fantastic performance. There's not a bad performance in this entire movie. But if you are a history snob on Saturday Night Live, or if you grew up with Saturday Night Live and you know kind of how it came to be, you might not like this movie as much as you expect to, because from what I have read and listened to, this does play a lot with the history of Saturday Night Live. Willem Dafoe plays the talent head at NBC at the time, David Tebbutt, and David Tebbutt was a huge fan of Saturday Night from the get-go. He was a huge backer of them, historically. In this film, he's kind of the antagonist.
Yeah.
But this movie I don't think would have worked without that antagonist figure. And also there's a issue in this movie where, Gabrielle Labelle isn't really able to define Saturday Night Live until right before they go to air. There is no way a studio would have put millions of dollars into a show if there wasn't a proper definition for it.
Yeah.
So if you have a tendency to overthink about that kind of stuff while you're watching a movie, this might not be the movie for you. But if you are able to set those flaws aside and just go into this movie and watch it and have a damn good time, you're gonna have a damn good time.
Agreed.
All right, so let's jump over to The Apprentice real quick. I know you haven't seen it. I have not seen this cut of The Apprentice. I saw the cut that premiered at Cannes, but from what I have heard is that once they were able to buy the rights from Dan Snyder, who is a Trump supporter and didn't want this movie being released in the theaters, they bought the rights from him so now that they could release it, and then they gave Abbasi, the director of the film, final cut to make a few changes to the film from how it premiered at Cannes. So apparently it is a little different. But from what I did see, I thought it was pretty good. I thought everybody Sebastian Stan, Jeremy Strong, great performances. Sebastian Stan, he's able to give a really good Trump performance without making it too comical, which to me I think is a impossible task, and he managed to do it. So that alone just really impressed me. I don't want to talk about it too much just because we got to keep going, but also because I haven't seen it in a while. But I thought I would just throw it up on here, and I think that you should go and see it because it's a good movie, and not a lot of people know about it because of tiny studios releasing it that hasn't advertised it.
Yeah.
All right.
Swag. I'll see it at some point.
Yeah, I think you should. I mean, we might see it tomorrow night, possibly, but
potentially.
We'll see. Next weekend, Smile 2, The Outrun, Frankie Frico. I'm so excited for Frankie Frico.
I'm probably not going to see it, but I've watched that trailer more times than I'd care to admit.
Yeah, Frankie Frico, if you don't know what it is, it's a comedy horror type of movie about a puppet of a guy who likes to party.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Woman of the Hour on Netflix, Anna Kendrick's directorial debut. I'm excited for really all four of these movies.
Gotcha.
I think that they're all going to be pretty good, so I can't wait to watch them. All right, let's quickly jump to our wheel.
Our wheel.
We always do this.
Yes.
For Halloween.
Please don't
celebration.
be something like the Meg again.
Yeah, so far we've only had 2. We've had Silence of the Lambs and the Meg. Now this is going to be our last spin because next week we're going to take all of these movies plus a bunch of horror movies that we haven't included because they got released in the last 5 years and do a little draft or something of that sort.
We'll figure it out.
We will figure it out. Anyways, our final spin. It's spinning right now. Oh my god. Don't be the Meg or Silence of the Lambs. Well, it shouldn't be.
Okay.
Oh. Arguably the greatest horror movie of all time. Okay.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
1974.
Yeah.
You
go first.
I'm going to be honest. I can't say that much because I haven't seen it since middle school.
Okay.
So I'm not in a great situation to talk about this movie, and
Fantastic.
I probably shouldn't have put it on the circle given that.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I saw this at Cinemapolis last year.
That's awesome.
And it was my first time, and it was a load of fun. And I feel like I don't want to say that much on it because it's been out for, what is that, 50 years?
Yeah.
50 years. That's a lot of years. And so I feel like everything that's already been said about it has been, like, I can't add much more. But, like, yeah, it's really fun. It's grimy as hell, and it's disgusting. And it's a lot of fun. And it's slower than I thought it was going to be. And I think that adds to it.
Yep.
And it is very clear just how many movies have taken insane inspiration from it. And so it was really cool to watch. Now, after having seen a lot of those movies and being like, yeah, that's where that came from. That's where that came from. And it's a little silly, but it's also kind of terrifying. And yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you recommend it as a Halloween movie?
Absolutely.
That's great to hear. I'm going to have to watch it soon because
do it.
I see it on all these lists. And I'm like, I actually need to like rewatch this.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Let's do our top 10 horror performances. I think we should create a little rule and set a timer on our phones where every time we talk, we only have a minute.
Only 1 minute.
Only 1 minute.
Dang.
Because we really only have 30 minutes to record this.
Yes.
So let's, we got 37 minutes until I have a class that starts. Now, luckily, this class is above the studio that we're recording in, so it's a 1 minute walk away from here.
Right.
But after we finish recording, I still have to ingest the audio into my laptop.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a little fun time crunch for me after this. Just some insight
and
from
for our
audience.
Listeners.
Yes.
We've already done this game before.
We have.
And we couldn't put out the episode because of why? What was the reason? I don't remember.
I honestly don't remember either. I think something with the files.
Something with the files. Some tech stuff.
I think audio.
Yeah.
I think the audio was all messed up.
Audio is generally pretty important for a podcast, so that makes sense. So this might not be totally fresh for us. I've changed my list.
I think it's pretty fresh because we did this back in July, and my list is very different.
Okay.
Like I don't even remember what my list was back then.
Yes, we also have a rule where we're only doing one performance per movie, which we
per
didn't
franchise
have per
actually.
Franchise, yes. Which
movie.
Last time I had like 4 different movies where I picked 2 people from it.
Yeah, and I think I had 2 where I picked 2 people.
Yeah, I might still shout out those other performances, but we'll see.
Yeah, but just very quick. All right. Who wants to go first?
I think you should go first.
You think I should go first?
What's
All
your
right.
number 10?
I'm going to set my timer starting right now. My number 10, speaking of the Terrifier franchise, David Howard Thornton. For Terrifier 3 specifically, but really for like Terrifier 3 and 2, because I haven't seen 1, as Art the Clown. I was deciding between him and Bill Skarsgård, deciding between the clown performances. I'm going with him because of recency bias, but also because he gives a silent performance.
Yes.
It's all just like mimicking and hand gestures. It's very slapstick type of comedy from him, but he's also a killer. It takes me back to like silent movies. It takes me back a little bit to, I don't want to be like, oh, David Howard Thornton is Charlie Chaplin, but he is a little bit. He is kind of a modern day Chaplin because he doesn't talk. So I think it's very interesting. And I think he just does such a good job in like his facial expressions and his just the way that he moves his body around just gets better in every movie. And just he was so funny in Terrifier 3.
Yes.
So I'm going to end off there.
He's great. He's an honorable mention for me.
Nice.
He's the best. He's like a mime.
No, he's awesome.
He's an evil mime.
All right, what's your number 10?
My number 10 is Matthew Lillard in Scream. And this was on my list last time. I'm so passionate about this performance. It is one of the great campy performances I think I have ever seen. And nobody really talks about it because why would they? He's like a very minor supporting character, it feels like, for the vast majority of it. But he goes off in the third act, and the way that he and Skeet Ulrich play off of each other is so funny. And he's kind of insane, so you're a little scared by him, but he just goes off. And when the "you hit me with the phone dick" line is like one of the funniest things I have ever seen. And he's drooling and he's spitting everywhere and he's covered in blood and he's crazy. There's the scene of him and Randy in the video store where like Randy's like, everybody's a suspect, and Matthew Lillard is just like there just doing stuff. He's so funny. I love him, and he makes Scream just like one of my favorite horror movies ever, just off of sheer entertainment value, and that's Matthew Lillard and Scream. Yeah.
Yes, that is. All right, let's jump to my number 9. Emily Blunt from A Quiet Place 1 specifically, but also A Quiet Place 2 if you want to mention that. She is just so good and really just a very strong, like, motherly figure, but also has some really good badass moments. Specifically, when I just think of her performance, I think of the bathtub scene. Yes. You know, that alone I feel like is almost enough to, at least right now, warrant a place on this list, where I've seen quite a few horror movies, but not that many horror movies. So yeah, for me, I think she gives a really good performance, anchor of the franchise, and for like A Quiet Place, where it's all built around this kind of being quiet gimmick, she thrives in that environment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Swag. Okay. My number 9 is Lupita Nyong'o in Us. She's great.
Okay.
It's a dual performance. She's playing the main character, but then she's also playing the main antagonist. And what she does with her voice as read as like the tethered version of her character, it's so crazy. It sounds really freaky and weird, but then there's the line where she's like, "We're Americans," and that's funny as hell. And I love the differences between those two characters, where like one is more animalistic and the other is more graceful. And weirdly, it's not the one that you would think would be that. Like when they're fighting at the end, like the actual allegedly human version of her is like just going hog wild with like the fire poker thing. Yeah. And the way what she does with her eyes, what she does with her voice, it's a very physical performance.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of fun, and I think completely carries that movie. So that's my number 9.
I totally agree. All right, my number 8 is Sigourney Weaver from Alien.
Hey, yo.
Just very strong performance. She does a really good job just like kind of reacting to the subtle misogyny from the people on the crew, like while she's dealing with it. And I appreciated that just because I feel like it could have been done in a way that was a lot more overt, and it wasn't, which was nice. And also just once the alien shows up, just the way that she just begins to carry the movie, and she is able to go face to face with this just terrifying creature is so badass to me. And especially in the final bit on like the escape pod, where she just slowly sneaks into like the astronaut suit. So good. So Sigourney Weaver for me is my number 8.
Hype. My number 8 is something that I do believe will be on your list somewhere. It's Anthony Perkins in Psycho. Where is this for you? It's on here.
I'm not going to say where.
Okay. All right. Yeah, he's so great. He does this thing where he's like, he fully embodies kind of this little boy in a grown adult man's body. And I don't know how he does it. It's really uncomfortable. The scene where it's just him and Janet Leigh talking in the room, and there's the birds everywhere. It's such a weird performance. And then there's that whole sequence when he's trying to hide the body, and it's 15 minutes, I think, maybe even more, of just him silently doing the thing. And I love scenes like that where it's just like the process of someone cleaning up a murder.
Yeah.
And he plays it so well, where he's like, he feels guilty, but he's also doing what he's got to do. It's also in many ways a dual performance. And it's just really fun to watch. Obviously iconic, but just, yeah, he's great. And it's so unique.
You know, guess what my number 7 is?
Is it Anthony Perkins in Psycho?
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, he's not even the first person who you've stole from my list, by the way.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. You're stealing people from me left
Dang.
and right. This is crazy. But yeah, no, you pretty much said it all with Anthony Perkins. Just the dual persona, like the final scene of the film is just so chilling to me. There's not much more I can add to what you're saying. I'm trying to think of things, but I really think the final scene is kind of the way that I can sum it up. And also just the way that he interacts when you don't yet like fully distrust him, when you're just getting to know him, and he's having like dinner with what's her name? Marion, I believe. Yeah. When he's having dinner with Marion, just like the subtle, just kind of creepy gestures that he was doing, and then the peephole after, like, just it just escalates, and he does a great job escalating with it.
Valid.
Yeah.
All right. I guess I'm moving on to my number 7.
Yes, you are.
Christian Bale in American Psycho. Dude.
Ooh, I didn't think I could count Christian Bale.
Yeah, I counted this.
Fair enough.
The performance that, like, every boy in, like, late middle school, early high school who has watched this movie just, like, tries to emulate, and it's really funny.
It is.
It's obviously very campy. There's, like, the whole voiceover bit that he does when he's looking at all, like, his coworkers' business cards. He's like, oh my God, there's a watermark.
Yeah.
It's so funny. But then there's, like, obviously the scene of him in the poncho with the axe, killing Jared Leto. That's great. And he just goes, like, 150% the entire time. Some of his line delivery, like, the lines themselves are crazy, but the line deliveries are even crazier. There's the scene of him on the phone where he's just like, I've killed a lot of people. Mm-hmm. It's so fun. And I think putting together this list, it's made me realize just how much I love fun performances. And I think horror is really great for that. But in a comedy horror like American Psycho, he just goes off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, for my number 6, I have Daniel Kaluuya in Get Out.
Okay.
Yeah, he is just so grounded in this just racist world as he's like slowly noticing like what's wrong and trying to scheme like how to get out. And he has a lot of very like funny quips as well about it, where he's just like reacting to what's going on. And he's talking to his girlfriend. I can't remember the actor's name or the character's name.
Allison
Rose.
Williams.
Thank you so much. And he's talking to Allison Williams. And just those scenes to me were some of the most impressive, where it's just he's reacting to this, but also still trying to be the good boyfriend and not trying to be the asshole, and just kind of trying to create that balance when he's being mistreated. And then also I just want to end off the facial expression when he is just stuck, frozen, and falling. It's just maybe the best just single facial expression I have seen put to film.
Yeah, I agree with you. So much so that my number 6 is also Daniel Kaluuya in Get Out.
Oh my God.
Crazy.
That is crazy.
They literally just made a statue of him. Yeah, he's so good. I agree with everything that you said. I think like the whole hypnosis scene where he's like, it's him just kind of reflecting on how he feels responsible for his mother's death because he didn't do anything. And like he's getting lulled into this sense of security, but he's also kind of really scared.
Yep.
It's so masterful, and I think, like you said, he's kind of this everyman, and you watch all of this weird racist sci-fi stuff going on, and you're like, what the hell is happening? And then he's just there taking his pictures, going like, also what with you? Mm-hmm. And it's great when he's like tied to the chair and is watching the Behold the Coagula video.
Oh my God.
He's just like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
It's so good.
It is.
Obviously there's a few scenes of him screaming, but like it is a very grounded performance. Mm-hmm. And it's much more subtle, but I love it, and it's great.
Kaluuya gives a lot of really good subtle performances. He's such a talented actor. All right, my number 5, speaking of Jordan Peele movies, is Lupita Nyong'o in Us. Just, this is like the first major horror movie I got to see in a theater, just really ever. So Lupita Nyong'o, I think that performance will just be forever ingrained in me in terms of nostalgia and just being really impressed by the performance itself. I think like on rewatch with this film, it's just so interesting because you see the subtle inconsistencies with her character like at the beginning, and you really question, oh, why is this happening? Like, why are these like little things kind of off? And she just does such a good job like doing those, but then still being like a regular personable person to not make you question it any further than that. And she just does a really good job balancing that fine line.
Yes. Swaggity daggity. My number 5 is Jack Nicholson in The Shining. And I just rewatched The Shining at Cinemapolis at night. There were a lot of people there. It was really fun. And I watched his performance through a completely new lens. And obviously it's what it's always been, but him just kind of being like this sort of drunken, abusive father/husband, and just watching the whole movie like that, it's so clear that is what he is doing, but he cranks it up to a notch where like it's that, but it's also crazed serial killer horror movie maniac.
Yeah.
And you can kind of interpret it however you want. And I think like the scene of him and Lloyd at the bar, fantastic. The way that Jack Nicholson contorts his face every scene.
Yeah.
Obviously when he's like just walking towards Shelley Duvall's character and is just like monologuing just like how crazy and isolated he feels. It's madness, and it's a descent into madness, and it's so good. And there's the Kubrick stare when he's just like looking out the window. Yep. That's awesome. He's awesome. I love it. Yeah. Classic.
Big classic. All right, my number 4 is Toni Collette in Hereditary. I'm figuring this is the first one I've stolen from you.
It is.
You deserve it because you've now stolen 3 from me.
Valid.
So yeah, Toni Collette in Hereditary, just also another descent into madness type of performance, and just kind of like an investigative type of performance, and being lulled in and out of a sense of security, but overall just kind of dealing with grief and trying to like move on from grief, but also a confused type of grief, because it's like, how bad about the grief do you actually feel? It's just very complex and interesting, and I really appreciated it. And then all of a sudden she's climbing up walls and doing all these crazy things. But like the dinner scene,
yes,
just at the table, like screaming at Alex Wolff, just so good. She's amazing.
Yes.
And you'll probably go into more detail than I did. But
that I will. Yes. Okay. My number 4, Willem Dafoe in The Lighthouse. And it's tough because him and Robert Pattinson are both so good in this movie, and they're very close for me. But for me, the Hark monologue, where it's just him standing doing like this ancient curse type thing for like 2 minutes straight. He doesn't blink the entire time, I don't think. It's in one take. It's nuts. I don't know. I can't understand half of what he's saying, but he's so good. And then there's the monologue with Robert Pattinson where he's like telling him to like scrub the floor and do all of his duties, and he'll do it because if he's saying he'll do it, and it's so good. And he's this just like little man with this beard just running around keeping the lighthouse. And he's like this old like fisherman type guy, and I don't know, I love it. It's such a captivating performance. Another descent into madness type thing. But the way that he plays off of Robert Pattinson is so great, where he's this authority figure, but at the end of the day, he's just kind of this little shit and is annoying and singing sea shanties, and it's great.
Yeah, it is great. The sea shanties are so good.
Yes.
But I do not actually have a Lighthouse performance.
No!
I know. All right, my number 3 is Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs.
All right.
Just, you could say that this is the greatest horror performance of all time, and I would not dispute that. I believe that there are a couple other ones I wanted to put higher, but Anthony Hopkins is just so good. Just all the facial expressions, the power dynamics. I mean, that's also in the cinematography, but the power dynamics in terms of the interactions, where even though he's behind bars, he always has this upper hand, and he's just this sinister guy, but also like charming. Like charmingly sinister, but so creepy, but still manages to convey this sense of charm. And it confuses me because I'm like, why am I being charmed by this really openly cannibalistic person? But like I am. And it confuses me as an audience member, but I just love it. I love the performance. I love Anthony Hopkins. Just the things that he does. It's just, it's so good. Okay.
Yeah. You want to hear something really funny?
It's your number 3, Anthony Hopkins?
It's also my number 3, yeah.
That's awesome.
He's so great. Like you said, he's just always in control. He has this oozing charisma, and you're like kind of conflicted by it, but it's always there, and it's always great. And he doesn't have a ton of screen time, which is awesome because he just dominates every time he is on screen. And I love the character's place in the story, and the way that he plays that, where he's like not one of the main pieces, but just kind of someone that Jodie Foster's character is going to kind of talk to. And it's incredible. And you kind of said everything I was going to say about it, but like, yeah, Yeah, he's just so fun to watch. The way that he just like
so fun to
his
watch.
deliberate command of the English language is unlike any other performance in any genre that I have ever seen.
Yes.
And it is just impossible to look away from. It is more magnetic, I would say, than anything else on this list.
Totally agree with all of that.
Yeah.
Okay. My number 2 is Jack Nicholson from The Shining.
All right.
Yeah, you pretty much said everything that I wanted to say. But I the scene that I always look back to is the stairwell scene where what's her name? I'm feeling Shelley Duvall. Yeah. Shelley Duvall is just backing up the stairs with the bat, and he just keeps being like, "Give me the bat. Give me the bat." And it's just this escalation within that one scene that I think really channels his character's experience for the whole film, where it's just this escalating descent into madness, like you were saying. And it's just so well done, because in every scene there's a slight change, but it's never too much of a change to be jarring. He does a very good job, like, slightly increasing how insane he gets through the entire film, really, until the third act. And not once was I like, he was just like that. Why is he now like this? Yeah. And I found that to be really impressive.
It's awesome. It is. It's on my list because it's also really, really good. I think so.
Yeah. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is Toni Collette in Hereditary.
Okay.
I won't be on this too long because you've already said kind of everything. But like the dinner scene. Oh my God. And like you said, with like just grief and how that's this major theme of Hereditary, I think the horror feels much more authentic here than in a lot of other performances, because it's coming from something that is kind of a real life terror, rather than, like, obviously there's the supernatural bits, there's all the cult stuff, but like a lot of it comes from like her daughter not being alive anymore, and that being a very upsetting thing, obviously. And the way that she channels that grief into the performance, not just when she's scared, not just when she's angry, but like literally just in the scenes where she's sitting and contemplating because her whole family is just dying around her. It's scary stuff, and I think really makes the movie, and it's great. And I think Ari Aster just has a way with directing actors that I will maybe get into again. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's your number 1?
My number 1, I want you to guess.
Is it Demi Moore in The Substance?
It is Demi
Moore. I was right!
Yeah. Because when we were making this, I was like, oh my God, the recency bias. And I haven't had a lot of recency bias, so I guess I made it kind of obvious.
Given how much you love this movie.
Yeah, I have lowered this down to my number 2 movie of the year.
Okay.
Below Challengers.
Let's go!
I know. It's just, I can't stop thinking about Challengers. Still.
Insert Challengers.
And I also can't stop thinking about The Substance. It's a very odd experience where I'm just bouncing between the two movies. But anyways, yeah, Demi Moore is just, she starts out on this like peak, but not like a huge peak where it's like, yeah, she has a star on the Walk of Fame, but she's not that star anymore. She's this just exercise morning show TV instructor. And all of a sudden she's lost that. She's 50. And it's a performance all about the way that the world perceives you and how, as a sort of minor celebrity at the time, the second she lost that and was just thrown into this isolation where she's left with barely anybody to perceive her, she was just completely driven mad. And it was such a captivating performance, and just seeing her react to her body and just the looks that she gave herself. It's a very vulnerable performance as somebody who experienced something similar, where she was a big movie star in like the 80s and the 90s, and then you didn't really hear much about her in the 2000s and 2010s. I think like the most that you'd hear about Demi Moore in the 2010s is that she was a cougar, you know, and now she has this, you know.
Jurassic Fitness.
Yeah. And also, I just want to clarify, I don't mean the cougar thing in a bad way. It's just that I was looking into Demi Moore's career after seeing this movie for the second time, and all I found about her from the 2010s were articles about like her love life and things like that. So that is not me saying that, because I was a child at that time, so I couldn't really perceive what being a cougar is. But I'm stating it like it's a fact, not my opinion.
Yeah, the scene of her like constantly going back into the bathroom to redo her makeup is like one of the best single scene performances I've seen in a very long time.
And also, what I found so interesting is that scene is a lot like a short film that I assistant directed on with my friend Sabrina.
Yes.
And it's not the same, and this movie does it in like the Hollywood way, but it's a very similar concept between that scene and then that short film. And when I saw that in Cannes just a few weeks, or not a few weeks, maybe a month after ADing, I was just like, oh my God. Like,
you guys
this
were
is uncanny. Yeah, like Sabrina was very much onto something.
Yeah.
And I've been telling her to go and watch The Substance because of that scene alone. So,
Hype.
yeah,
Yeah.
big hype.
Big hype.
What's
Demi
your
Moore
number
was like
one?
almost in my top 10. I was very close and didn't include her because I knew you would.
Did you kind of figure that she would be my number one?
I figured she would be your number one, and so I didn't do it because there were just more people that I wanted to talk about that I didn't think you were going to talk about. Like my number one, which hasn't changed, which is Florence Pugh in Midsommar.
Oh, right.
So good. So good. Oh my God. The first 15 minutes where it's like her just like on the phone with Jack Brainer's character, like crying kind of, but like talking in this really low raspy voice. I think Florence Pugh's just naturally lower voice lends itself to just incredible delivery of some of this dialogue. And like the insane guttural screams when her whole family has just been wiped off the board in one fell swoop. She is constantly being gaslit. She is constantly just at the receiving end of all of this abusiveness in this toxic relationship. And it's just so interesting because this whole movie is kind of just a breakup movie. And it's really fun watching her go from having basically no agency because she's just not being allowed to kind of exist as this full person with wants and needs and whatever, to the May Queen and fully just leaning into this cult that she has kind of found as this family in a way, because she doesn't have anyone in her real family left, and the only person that she did think she could rely on just does not have her interests in mind ever. And she's terrified, but she's interested and just like is very curious about what's going on. And it's another very physical performance. I think like a lot of the sort of drug-induced effects really emphasize how like kind of drugged up she feels. And it's very trippy. It's very scary. It's very fun at times. And I love it, and it's probably one of my favorite performances ever. And watching it in a theater this past year was just another great experience at the movies. And yeah, it's great.
I bet.
It's awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah. That's our list.
That is our list. We did it in a timely manner.
Yeah, we
Look
did.
at us. We never do this in a timely manner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got 12 minutes now to ingest this audio and get to class. It's great.
Toodles, everyone.
Feels great. Yeah, toodles, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this episode.
Spooky.
We'll see you next week for Smile 2 and, the big draft.
Whatever we do
big
with
Halloween
that.
movie draft.
Hype. Bye.
Bye.